Hey, welcome to Texas Football Talk. I'm your host, 𝗟𝗓𝗏𝗘. Today, I'm joined by the Stucast of Stucast Sports. How are you, Stu?
I'm hanging in there. You know, ruptured patella, jacked up knee. You know the drill, but we're getting through it. It's good to see you again, man. How's things?
Oh, I'm doing great. Took a break from the channel for about 4 months. Clint took a break from the channel for about 4 months. He started a master's program, hoping to coach, get into high school teaching and coach at some point. Me, I went on a military training mission for a couple of months, a little bit of prep, and then went out there and then came back.
The box is always fun. The box is always fun, Jeremy.
It was a good 17 days in the box. You really only spent 14, but this time it was 17. But ready to talk some Texas football with you.
Heck yeah, hook 'em. Yeah, I mean, you guys are really off to a hot start. I guess my first thing is, recruiting wise, and recruiting off season. You can try and win the season, win the off season. Arch Manning, obviously, the big get. Where are you at with Arch? Because I know there's a conversation taking place, and I know there's a lot of people coming out of the woodworks to be like, who's got the hottest take on Arch? What do you guys think? Because you guys watch the tape. You guys know. I mean, is he truly the guy, the quarterback of our generation?
All right, so I'll take you a couple of places. So watching his game film, it's hard to see exactly how good of a quarterback he can be. And again, these projections are projections for their end of their college career. Their comparables are to pros. Again, he's working behind an offensive line that is less than stellar. He has to make a lot of throws on the run off his back foot, not with a stable platform to make throws. But talking to a guy like Jonte Cook, a recent receiver commit from DeSoto, my hometown, Jonte says he throws the best ball. And I give that context by saying Jonte's 7-on-7 quarterback was Nick Evers, recently committed to Oklahoma last year, a high 4-star quarterback. I don't really know exactly where I rate Arch in comparison to Nico or Malachi. What I do know is his commitment has made a big impact on the program. And so whether he's the high 5-star, whether he's the second best quarterback or the third best quarterback in this class, what I know is it's created a buzz around Austin. It's created a buzz around this 23 class to allow us to bring the caliber of athletes that's going to be necessary to compete for Big 12 championships and then compete in the SEC when we get there. And the University of Texas has had two 1.00 quarterbacks before. One's going to start this year in Quinn Ewers, and then Vincent Young. So we've had these kind of quarterbacks before. And then you talk about a guy like Colt McCoy was a 3-star, and then he came to the University of Texas and led him to a national championship game appearance. So ratings, whatever they are, again, once you get that talent at your university, then it's time to develop them. And I want to say talent acquisition. So the talent acquisition portion, once you get them there, then it's time to develop them and make them that 5-star, which is what the prognosticators, the 247s, the Rivals, and the ESPNs and On3s are trying to do anyway.
Yeah, and I think what goes hand in hand, especially my school, even though I'm repping the Aggies, I didn't have the guts, Jeremy, to walk on here with the Oklahoma State shirt. I know better, so I wanted to be geographically close.
Got it.
But I'm a Spartan guy. Mel Tucker, my knight in shining armor, he's saving us. He's being really aggressive, doing new things, thinking outside the box as far as recruiting. And I think the tenor outside of Texas, because I work with folks that like Texas, all here in Virginia, up in New York, Texas fans that were very tepid about Sark. And I've always held the opinion, I've been more bullish about him. I know he's going to recruit. I know once he gets in the house, he's going to close. How has that recruiting approach changed versus Todd Herman, since now we're almost two cycles with him, almost like 1.5 maybe, but enough to see a change? Is it the same? Is it similar? Is it wholesale different?
I see in the trenches, it's totally different. Like Tom Herman and Herb Hand like to bring in 270-pound linemen that could move and try to add weight to them this way. That's not the case with Steve Sarkeesian and Kyle Flood. They want big humans. Cam Williams is coming in 6'7", 374 pounds. In this recruiting class, you got Connor Stroh, 6'6.5", 345 pounds. You have Andre Koju, 6'6.5", 340 pounds. So they're trying to bring in big men. And I think that, like he said in his media day press conference, he wants bigs between the hash marks on both the offensive and defensive line. And then outside the hashes and at the skill positions, he wants speed. So the philosophy is we're going to corner. Like Texas is not the only place we're going to recruit. We're going to go out to Hawaii and grab a linebacker. We're going to go to New Jersey and grab a defensive tackle. We're going to go to Florida and get a running back, and Louisiana and get our quarterback. So we're going coast to coast, border to border for the best football players. And I say that to say this: they're recruiting to their scheme. They're recruiting to, especially with Kyle Flood and his philosophy of getting big men. Same thing with Bo Davis. Big men between the hashes and recruiting to their system. Big men between the hashes and speed on the outside. So that's the philosophy. And I asked Mike Roach at 247 if it's changed or if we're just able to see it better with the offers that are going out, specifically in recruiting. And he said the same thing, is that this organization knows how to recruit. Coming from Alabama, Jeff Banks, Bo Davis, Steve Sarkeesian, Kyle Flood, they all have skins on the wall. They all came here together with that philosophy of how to recruit for the SEC, and they're putting it into a fruition. And I didn't see that coming off a 5-7 season. I thought we would do well in recruiting last year, a top 5 class off a losing season, and 23 has not changed my mind. Currently, they're number 4 on the 247 composite, and you got guys like Jalen Hale still on the board. You got guys like Anthony Hill still on the board. You got guys like Malik Muhammad, who's going to commit on the 20th, who are high 4-star, 5-star caliber players.
Well, Malik's a big get. Malik, and a lot of people are sleeping on him outside of Texas, but that's a guy that I think could be a real impact kid next year.
We agree. And that's where we got to fix our football team. I don't know if we're going to talk the current state of Texas football, but it's on the defensive side of the ball. Well, I think you have a Heisman caliber running back. I think Quinn Ewers can make every throw. I think those receivers are going to get open. There's a ton of depth at the receiver position. The tight end, we had Jaleel Billingsley transfer in from Alabama, but other than that, we're young. But we have a 5-star in Jatavian Sanders, who is 6'4.5", 254 pounds, and can go and get the ball. So I think the offense is going to be okay. I think the offense was okay last year. In their wins, they averaged 44 points a game. In the losses, they averaged 28. Where we need to get better is stopping the run. Last year was 5.9 yards per rush. And like totality of defense, we were the 99th ranked defense in the country. So if we can improve offensive line play and get better at defense this year, I think I project an 8 or 9 win team, but I'm sure you got questions about the current team as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I got to start, because this defense, I mean, you didn't have to be Bill Belichick to notice that it really felt like in certain games last year, quite a few, and the stats back it up, this D-line did not get pressure on anybody. And on top of that, averaging about 200 yards a game on the ground in a pass-happy league for the most part. Very scary. And to be truthful, I know you got the JMU transfer in at linebacker who's pretty nice. The secondary is pretty solid. It's just one of these things where you look at it on paper and you go, there's a lot more talent on the defense than what they're showing. How real is the expectation that they're going to be better? Because they're going to have to be, like you said, if they even want to approach a Big Ten championship.
So I think, like I said, they got an influx of defensive linemen. Again, they're young. Talking about Byron Murphy, Justice Finkley, Aaron Bryant, Christopher Ross. Like, they went out and recruited the trenches. Steve Sarkeesian said that the other day. 35 of 85 scholarship players are brand new. 57 out of their 85 are freshmen or sophomores. And they made a concerted effort, 16 scholarships last year out of those out of that recruiting class went to the offensive and defensive line. So they're trying to get those bodies in there. And I don't see where we can improve. Again, like I said, 5.9 yards per rush has got to get better. And I'd like to think it was, a third year of a different defensive coordinator, a new system, players moving around positions, Alfred Collins moving from inside to outside, transfers coming into the program to play the defensive end like Ovia Gofu. Now it's the second year in the program, the transfer from Notre Dame. And then DeMarvion Overshone is a playmaker. Can we get him in a position where he can make plays? They're talking about making him an edge guy to get, like you said, more pressure on the quarterback. But where I think it has to improve is in that D tackle and that 3 technique, or that nose tackle and that 3 technique. Like you said, there was no interior pass rush. And if you could put a pass rush in a quarterback's face and push that pocket backwards and get him off his, he has to roll or throw him off his back foot or change his time. And that's where I want my pressure to start from, is in the middle. And that same group, like you said, couldn't stop the run. So if we could stop the run on first and second down, or obviously run downs, and earn the right, that's the saying around here, earn the right to rush the passer on third down. That's where we want to be. But like I said, I can't see where it can improve. Like I said, they're throwing bodies at it. They're in the second year of a scheme. Bo Davis is their defensive line coach. I think they'll get better. But we just got to put those players in positions to make plays, and that's ultimately what this season is going to be defined by, is the defense.
Flipping to the offensive side of the ball, I'm of the opinion, and I think when you look at this starting offense, this is a clear-cut top 3. I'm a Quinn Ewers. I believe in him. I think eventually, and we'll get to it, I think eventually he takes over and he's going to be set up for success. I mean, this wide receiving core is scary good. Scary good. You got the best running back in the country now that Kenneth Walker's in the pros. And you've got an offensive line that's a big question mark for me. I know last year they were competent. They were pretty good, but you're going to lose some pieces out of that. How's the offensive line? Is it more built for depth? That was my impression, just looking at, and shout out to my guy, Phil Steele. I was looking at his rundown in the depth chart over there that he put out recently. And I was like, it seems like there's a lot of depth. So if one guy goes down, you can replace him, which is very good luxury to have, but I don't know how good the O-line is going to be comparatively. So
I started writing we do a position preview series at the beginning of fall camp, or as we're starting into fall camp. And I wrote the offensive line one, and I wrote 5 returning players, and then I had to write 7 freshmen. Every publication, I actually have Athlon Sports on my desk right now. Every publication has 2 starters that are freshmen. They have Kelvin Banks and DJ Campbell. And then If you watch the Texas spring game, you saw Cole Hudson was starting in the spring game and made a good account for himself. What I want is the 5 best players to play, regardless of the classification, whether they're freshmen or seniors. And Steve Sarkeesian kind of talked about this at Media Day, is these incoming freshmen. And when I was writing it, I didn't realize all the accolades these freshmen have coming in. But you're talking about Kelvin Banks, a top 10 player. DJ Campbell's a top 15 player. Like, these guys were killers in high school. And that's what we're hoping is they come and from talking to Scott Hudson, who's Cole Hudson's dad, they come in with damage on their minds. Like, they want to make a dent in that 2 deep. And so I want 8 or 9 solid linemen that if I have to bring reserves in, that they can play a series or 2 and not see a big fall off. But I need my 5 best guys to play. And like you said, Bijan deserves that. If you give Quinn Ewers the time, he could throw from hash mark to hash mark. He can make any throw on the football field. And once he gets the ball to, Xavier Worthy, Jordan Whittington, Isaiah Nair, Troy O'Meary, the list goes on and on. Brendan Thompson, a kid who came in, freshman from Spearman, 10-2, 100 meters. Like, get these guys the ball in space and let them do their thing. But that's what's going to pull down to. And your guess is as good as mine on who that starting 5 is going to be as far as when we roll out to Louisiana Monroe. But my thought process is every publication that I've read, preseason prognostication has Texas at least starting 2 and 3 in that 2 deep. So we'll see.
I got a conspiracy about quarterback. Please hear me out. And I hope I'm not offending Longhorn Nation here. So if I'm Sark, there is no way Quinn Ewers starts the season as the quarterback. I need Hudson Card in there. And only because, and I think Hudson Card's a good quarterback. I think his future's probably not at Texas. I think we can read the writing on the wall. I think he can read the writing on the wall. But I feel like going back to last year, putting him in that position at Arkansas was a little bit too much. Walked into a hornet's nest, and I don't know that he fully bounced back. Coming into this season, you've got Alabama coming in second game. Even though it's at home, I don't know if I want Quinn Ewers facing what probably is the best defense in the country right off the bat. I know we'll see him in the game for sure. Where do you stand on that? Am I talking out of turn? Is this Quinn Ewers' job, and we're just gonna, throw him out there and he's gonna be the next Johnny Football, or what's going on here?
100%. And you're not going to get killed on our channel because everybody understands that Hudson has the experience. Quinn got limited snaps at Ohio State. He didn't make any throws. But coming out of the spring game and just the writing on the wall comes from his relationship with players. So there's a lot of NIL stuff out here, right? And there's a lot of, appearances here and there. And the quarterback you see with Bijan Robinson, with Isaiah Nair, with Xavier Worthy, with the offensive lineman is Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers is outspoken, outgoing. Hudson Card's a little bit more reserved. But everything you see, the narrative coming out of Texas, and Sark said this in his media day press conference, is I'm going to choose the quarterback a lot earlier than I did last year. Like there's not going to be a week before Louisiana from last year, Louisiana Monroe this year, that you're not going to know who the starter is. And I truly believe that Quinn Ewers gives them the best chance to win football games, regardless of opponent. Because if I'm down by 7 late in the fourth quarter and I need a throw to be made, I could trust that Quinn Ewers can make that throw. Now, will he? I don't know, but he could throw every ball in the route tree. I think he makes defensive coordinators a little bit more leery of what can the Texas offense bring to the table. And you just got to – the reaction from the spring game when he hit Isaiah Nair on a basically a long post route. I want to call it a skinny post route, but it wasn't. It was about 40 yards downfield before he turned towards the post, right on the money, in stride. You just see the talent. And again, I think he's the best high school quarterback, arm talent wise, to come out of the state of Texas since Matthew Stafford. And that's saying something, because Texas produces a lot of great quarterbacks. There's probably a dozen of them in the NFL right now. But Quinn Ewers can make every throw. And again, like we were talking about with Arch, like I've seen Quinn make throws off his back foot 60 yards, from one hash mark to the other. I just think he gives you that potential, that home run potential that Hudson Card doesn't give you. And I think that's why he starts. And I think that the team wants him to start, which is the biggest deal. I think Sark wants him to start, which is a bigger deal.
There's no like push after seeing what happened last year with Thompson and Card, and there's no push to go, okay, we're going to ease Quinn into the role and he'll take over. There's no push for that, kind of slowing down the progression, is there?
Which is crazy because he reclassified. This would be his class. Like he would literally be a true freshman walking in with this class. But because he reclassified and went to Ohio State a year early, after his junior season at South Lake Carroll, it's crazy. But that's what the fan base wants. I think that's what the team wants. And I think ultimately that's what Sark's going to decide is that he gives you, like I said a little bit earlier, he gives you the best potential to win ball games. Again, because these receivers are going to get open. Bijan's going to do his thing.
Well, it's the best wide receiving core in the country. And I think we've seen with what Sark can do with talented wide receivers and a good quarterback, it's scary.
Yeah, he said this isn't Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, Jalen Waddle, and I forget the fourth receiver just right off the top of my head, but Devontae Smith, and this is Najee Harris in the backfield. But you see that potential. You could see them being prolific. And Jonte Cook said that yesterday. Like when asked why he chose Texas because they haven't been successful in the last decade, it was just that. It's Sark's offense. I've seen what Sark could do if he has the kind of weapons like me, Jalen Hale, Arch Manning, Cedric Baxter. I could see what we can become in 2 to 3 years. And he said it by my sophomore year in college, which would be the 25 season, which is probably 24 season, 25 season, which is going to be that move towards the SEC. He thinks, and that's why these kids are continuing to recruit other great kids, is they want to be competing for SEC titles. And again, it's amazing what they've been able to do on the recruiting trail based upon the results in the fall.
I want to switch gears and ask you a question about the broader Big 12, which to my eyes is, I'm a gambler. If folks come check out my channel during college football season, we're talking spreads and over and unders and money lines and all that good stuff. But looking at the futures, I full transparency, and not just because I'm on the show and we're friends, I bet Texas because of the upside potential, like we've been talking about. But this Big 12 is very competitive. You look at Oklahoma, Baylor, Oklahoma State, really solid put together teams. I think you could even make a case that Texas Tech's going to be better. Kansas State, had they not gone and got Adrian Martinez, they would be pretty formidable. They still might be. This is a really solid put together conference. Who's the big threat? Who is Longhorn Nation looking at? I know Oklahoma's the obvious answer. I think they've got enough question marks themselves as to, is Dillon Gabriel that good? Can that offensive line with 2 new transfers step in and be dominant? Is that defense? Yes, Brent Venables is there, but is that defense that great? And you could say similar things about OK State and Baylor. What's the big threat for Texas? Because I know that offense is going to score points.
I think a lot of these publications got it right, and I hope they get it wrong. I hope Texas can go out there and dominate the Big 12 schedule. But I think the Baylors, the Oklahoma States, and the Oklahomas are your toughest competition. Again, Dave Aranda and that Baylor team came out of nowhere during the COVID season. What were they, 2-4, and came back and found themselves in the Big 12 championship game. Oklahoma's always going to be a threat. Yeah, Dillon Gabriel, he's not Caleb Williams and he's not Spencer Rattler, but I think he's a serviceable quarterback. But they lost a lot of guys off their defense. Perion Winfrey, Nick Bonino. Like, how is Oklahoma going to rebuild their defense? I'm like you. I think this conference is wide open and for the taking. I just hope that Texas, again, coming off that Alabama game, I think it's going to be similar to LSU. When we played LSU, when they won their national championship in 2019, we played them to a 7-point game, and they had to hit us on a 4th and 13. I think if we'd have got the ball back, I think we could have found a way to score and possibly won that game against LSU. And I think we gave them the best matchup all year. But I think this Alabama game is going to set that. But if you put a good product on the field against Alabama and you compete with Alabama, I'm not saying you have to beat them, but you're a spread guy. If the spread's 14 and you lose by 7 or 10, you come out of the game feeling good about yourself, right? That's that team played in the national championship game last year. They're an future SEC opponent. I think that could set Texas up for success. Now, if it goes the other way and Texas doesn't compete on the football field and it ends up being a blowout, I could definitely see, all the guys that were that culture problem that Steve Sarkeesian talked about last year. He said, if I could change one thing, it'd be I'd come in and worry about the culture a little bit more. I'd take care of the culture. But some of those guys are still there. Hummer guys are still there. And I just don't want – and they're the upperclassmen. I just feel like if you're successful in this Alabama game, that continue on a trajectory up, And if you don't do well in that Alabama game, then he's going to have to circle the wagons, say, hey, it's a non-conference game. They still got a conference championship to play for. Let's get after it. Because, again, I think they're as talented as any other team in this Big 12 conference. Don't know much about these blue chip ratios anymore because they don't seem to work out in our favor. We're always, top 10 in blue chip ratios every time it gets put out, like meaning one of the best rosters as far as recruiting rankings, but it doesn't show in the standings. And I think that's important. I think it's important to solidify this 23 class that we currently have committed. There's 18 guys that are already committed to play at the University of Texas. The signing day is not until December. Put a good product on the field, compete for a Big 12 championship, give a good account for yourself against Alabama. And I think it's a successful season.
I'll ask this question as we're wrapping up here. I know the collectives nil over on my channel. We've had quite a few folks on recently that are in the game or covering it from a nil perspective. You hear rumors about what Miami's doing behind the scenes. You look at what Texas A&M allegedly has, depends on who you ask, everybody or Jimbo, what they've been up to. How's Texas responding? Because historically, a very proactive fan base as far as commitment to winning, commitment to building something long-term and sustainable. How is the fan base feeling about NIL and where things are headed with college football?
Oh, they're all about it. A couple of weeks ago, we had the opportunity to interview Derek Johnson, who's 13-year NFL vet, 4-time Pro Bowler, UT Hall of Honor recipient, as part of what they call Burn Orange Heroes, which is basically a fan group who gets together, hangs out with pays for tickets, gets to go hang out, axe throw, bowl, meet and greet with the players, which is what Texas fans want. Somebody always says, you want to see what's beneath. I think it's Brad Sham, the commentator for the Dallas Cowboys, says you want to understand what the human being is about, not the guy who puts a cage on his head on Saturdays and knocks people down or runs for touchdowns. You want to get to know, the Justice Sminkleys. You want to get to know the DeMarvin Overshones. You want to get to have a conversation with them. DeMarvin's a good kid from East Texas, a town of 500, wears a cowboy hat, belt buckle, boots, just a good old country kid. Like, what's he like? They're actually, me and Clint are going to attend one of their gatherings next Saturday evening. They're going to have down in Austin to support, Texas football in whatever way we can, whether it's helping kids put money in their pocket. And that's what Nick Saban said it the other day. It's gonna separate the haves and the have-nots until somebody litigates this thing and makes it even across the board. Texas is going to take advantage of every opportunity they have to sell their program. I'm not sure what A&M did, but you could tell a difference in their 22 recruiting class and what they have right now. And they had a big pool party they had scheduled for the 28-29 that recruits that are now, leaning towards Texas we're going to attend, talking about Malik Muhammad, talking about Anthony Hill, the linebacker. Not sure they're going to make those trips. I'm not sure what's really going on with A&M's program right now, coming off that 22 recruiting cycle. But I think Texas is in a position to take advantage of every opportunity for NIL for these student athletes. And I think the fan base is hungry for wins. And if that helps them get to that 9, 10, 11 win mark that we were in the early 2000s, I think people are going to support it.
I want to end with this because, like I said at the beginning of this, I'm bullish on Sark. I thought he was the best hire Texas could make. I thought that with him getting right personally and the time at Coach Rehabilitation's University and getting right there, I thought he was set and it was the perfect match. Last season, notwithstanding, obviously, I don't know how much of a pass he gets, especially at a school like Texas, where there's not many passes given out, especially for, last year. Is the fan base happy with him? Are they going to give him a long leash to kind of go out there and do, make changes and push the program forward. Because for a time there, it really felt like Todd Herman's after year 2. It was like, we're just waiting. We're just waiting, and we've got, I don't know, Oswald in the book depository waiting for you, kind of thing.
So I think what we talked about earlier changes the narrative, right? So Sark is a personable guy. He's an honest guy. He's a no excuses guy. He has skins on the wall. Anytime he mentions those 4 receivers and that quarterback and those running backs that he had at both USC and Alabama, in the recruiting class, again, the recruiting classes that he's put together, if all these guys in the 23 class sign in December, and the one he put together in 22 coming off a 5-7 season, and you could see the vision as a student athlete, and that the student athletes are sharing that vision with the fan base, and the fan base can actually see it. Like I said, the recruiting model. We want speed on the outside. We want big men in the middle. Well, hell, he's turned this roster over. 57 out of 85 are brand new. 35 are coming in this summer with 28, brand new freshmen and 7 transfers. Like he said it because his mentor, Pete Carroll, said it. He said, I could come in and I could do the same things that my predecessor did. I just better be ready for my predecessor's results. Or I could come in and blow this whole thing up and do it my way. And it's going to be a little bit longer transition because they're not going to be used to it. But in the end, it's going to be the best thing for the program. So I think when he comes out and he says stuff like this, and you can actually see it materialize, and the kind of recruits that he's bringing in and what the recruits are saying and what the team is saying, that shared vision between those 3 components allows Sark more time. Now, again, 23 recruits are going to look at this season. They're going to want to see progression, and they're going to have to see progression to sign that dotted line in December. But right now they see the vision. They just got to see the progression.
Well, I lied. Last question.
All right.
Who's the breakout player? Offense or defense? Who is the guy? I have an answer personally. I think people are going to be very surprised at how good Isaiah Neyor is. If you watched Wyoming football last year, that was one of the most horrific offenses I've ever seen in my life, especially having Neyor out there. He basically carried the entire passing game, being double, triple covered. And really, they struggled running the ball. So he was really up against it, and he still produced in a pretty good iteration of the Mountain West. So I'm really excited to see what he does as that third guy, where Whittington and Worthy are getting looks. And you mentioned Sanders and Billingsley at tight end. He could be the guy that's lost and put up some big numbers. I'm excited about him. Who's your guy?
I would say Sanders. Sark has said that the tight end position is the second most important position in his offense. I think he'll be on the field because he's 254 pounds, a lot more than Jaleel Billingsley. I think Billingsley will start, but I think you'll see him more in that flex tight end role. But as far as that inline tight end, I think you got a 6'5", 254-pound guy who's very athletic. Again, he played receiver in high school, played defensive end in high school at a very good school, Denton Ryan. I think Ja'Tavion Sanders would be my breakout player. And I truly agree with you with Isaiah Neyor. It's his 4th year of organized football. That's why he wasn't highly recruited, because he only started playing football his sophomore year of high school. And he's progressively gotten bigger. And like you said, he's 6'3", 215 pounds. We saw the catch that he made in the spring game. We see he's able to separate from defensive backs. And I'm excited, just as excited to see him as I am with Ja'Tavion Sanders. But to pick somebody different and to stay on the offensive side of the ball, because I really just don't know about the defense. Again, I'm going to have to see that 2 deep when it comes out. I'm going to see what the names are on it because I do expect some, flip-flopping. I do expect to see some guys lose their starting positions that were returning starters to get younger guys into the defensive fold. But I'll say Ja'Tavion Sanders.
Yeah, and like you said, defense, summing it up, defense, I have serious questions, but there is a ton of room for improvement. You can't be worse than 99th like you were last year. There has to be some move forward. What that is, like you're saying, we don't know, but top 3 offense in the country. I don't think that's I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility or unrealistic. And when you're putting those two things together in a Big 12, that I think you can poke holes in every single team that's being projected out there. Watch out for Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech is going back to how they used to be with slinging it, bringing in Zach Kittley from West Kentucky. It was a team to watch, because that game could get real high scoring. Take the over. But
Okay.
I can't thank you enough for having me on. You and Clint do a phenomenal job. You made me support Texas. I don't have a shirt yet. I will. I got the Texas football shirt. I got the polo. I wear it to work. So I appreciate you for having me on, man.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. That was Stu from Stucast Sports National Podcast. Please give him a listen. His @Stucast Sports is there. Follow him on Twitter. Find his program. Again, he touches, coast to coast. He hits up Miami. He hits up Michigan. He hits up Ohio State. All these big programs, talks to all their folks. But thank you for watching Texas Football Talk. You can find us at Facebook at Texas Football Talk, on Instagram at Texas Football Talk, and, of course, Twitter at TX Football Talk. Please join our new Inner Circle, our membership. Please like this podcast. Please subscribe to our channel. We thank you very much, and hook 'em.
Hook 'em.